others are joining us, so people just have to join us. My name is Michael Hellman. I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight for the first of what will be many panels and events for the Crowdcentric network, which is, for those in the meetup group, they know what I'm talking about, and for those not in the meetup group, the Crowdcentric network is actually a meetup group that is sponsored by crowdzu.com, that is basically focusing on crowdfunding and crowdsourcing. This month's panel is going to be talking about reward-based crowdfunding, and we will also update you on equity-based crowdfunding, where that stands today, and when, if ever, it will actually be available on the web for people to utilize. Let me introduce the panel. All the way on the right is Joel Hellman, and he is a CPA based here in New York. Next to Joel is Jace Barta, and Jace is a producer and actor who has successfully crowdfunded for his film
Tiny Dancer.
Tiny Dancer. Next to Jace is Sarah Nujimi?
Yeah.
Nujimi. Okay, and Sarah successfully crowdfunded for her film The Iran Job, which has been playing many festivals, right? And hopefully will be soon playing the Williamsburg Film Festival in September. I have yet to find out myself. Okay, and next to Sarah is Nancy Wolf, who successfully crowdfunded her film Fit to Print. Okay, and finally, this is Stella McGovern, who is one of the founders and CEO of Crowdzu.com, which is a global crowdfunding platform that is specializing, focusing right now on rewards-based, and then later on, eventually, equity. The reason the Crowdcentric network also focuses on crowdsourcing, which we think is important, although the two are different, just simply both reach out to the crowd for either raising money or providing services, creative services, is that Crowdzu also will be going online with crowdsourcing features in the next month. So we're going to start this off with our panelists talking about their projects and what their experience was like, because those coming here that really want to understand crowdfunding and what it takes to get it going and to actually succeed, two very, very, very different things, and it's a tough job, which they will elaborate on. So we will start with Sarah, because unfortunately Sarah needs to leave at 7 p.m. for a flight. So she'll tell you about the Iran job, and if we also have a few questions for her, we'll get those in before she asks me student.
Thanks for having me here. The Iran Job is a feature-length documentary that we have been producing for the last 5 years. It's not completed. I guess in December of last year, we were basically, and the way we had raised money for this film, I should just give a little bit of background, maybe it's interesting. We had to self-finance all of the production of the film, most of the production. We had to cut a trailer and then start looking for grants. So we were able to secure some grant money for the trailer, and then that helped us edit to get to a rough cut. And with the rough cut, we were able to approach our executive producer, Abigail Disney, who then helped us hire an editor to get to a final cut. And we still needed to finish the film, and so we were shit out of money. And even our executive producer was like, we got into it, and everybody along the way was like, why don't you do a Kickstarter campaign? And I was like, I'm not doing that. And then she was like, I think it's time for a Kickstarter campaign. I was like, I don't know. And then we sort of did some real soul searching and thought, maybe it's time for a Kickstarter campaign. And then I said, if we do this, we're only going to do it with like a major push, because I'm not going to go out there, set whatever goal, and then not reach it, because that's not even good for the film. It was important for me to make the campaign impressive so that has an effect on the film. And it's also important to say that we did no social networking for the film before Kickstarter, and I think that's something, like, we had no audience. We didn't have, friends, family, people in the industry knew about the film, but we didn't necessarily have an audience base. And so our editor told us, Kickstarter is great for raising money, but it's also great to build an audience. And that was kind of what gave us the final kick to do it, because we were like, oh, there's something we don't have is a base. So my husband and I produced it together. He's the director. He basically spent a month reading other Kickstarter campaigns and like looking at their language, looking at their updates, and finding kind of a tone for our Kickstarter campaign. And I spent a month sort of enriching our outreach document. Our film is about an American basketball player who plays professionally in Iran. So it's a documentary. So it reaches sports fans, documentary fans, people interested in the Middle East, people interested in women's rights, because there's a couple of women in the film. So I sort of made this massive outreach document with like each group, and then of course Iranians, which is a huge group in itself. And then we found a team. We found like 5 interns, 3 of which sort of dropped out along the way, and 2 of which, really helped us through. And each person, so one person was like Facebook, one person was nighttime Twitter, and then we just broke it out. I did the Iranians because I'm Iranian. Somebody did women's groups, somebody did sports groups, and we just, until really spent all of this time focused on the content and the tone of how it was going to, how the Kickstarter was going to. And I think that was really, really important for us, was just setting it up, setting ourselves up with a team, and really being armed to attack it when we did launch Crowdzu.
This is one of the points that we want to really bring up tonight for those interested in crowdfunding. A couple other little announcements. I was supposed to be a panelist here, and at some point I will, where our moderator is actually running a little late, and she will be here soon. Also, Joel Hellman at some point in the event will address some tax implications that is involved, a very general overview of what is involved in crowdfunding, because as you know, there's no such thing in life as free money. So he'll address that later. Going back to what you just explained, very important point. She was saying that she did not start out with a large network. The reason why she said it that way is because is it true that this only works if you galvanize and create a large network. You can't just count on just putting it up on a site and it just automatically sells.
It doesn't happen. I mean, what we did do for like our social network, we about 6 weeks before our Kickstarter campaign, we started a Facebook page just for the film, and then we got some friends in the pot on Facebook, to like us. So there was a little bit of a base, and then we just, one person gave us this tip, like do a soft launch for your friends and family, and talk to them and tell them that when you do the launch.
Oh, sorry. I'm usually so loud. That's why so they said do a soft launch with your friends and family, so that you basically call, let's say you have 20 members, friends and family, you call them up or you email them and say, this is what I'm about to do. If you ever thought about supporting our project, this would be the time to do it. And once you do it, a few days later, you just post on Facebook and tell everybody about it. And so we did a soft launch, which means we launched on a Sunday and didn't tell our Facebook fans or anybody. And then once we had like a little bit of money in the pot, then we did like a hard launch and sent it to our email list. And I think that was good because you don't start out at zero. You don't want people to come to your Kickstarter page and be like, oh, not even 1% funded. So we got like 1 or 2% funded. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, it's always a question of how much do you go for, and we really had no idea what to expect and what we could raise.
How much were you on the site? How much were you trying to raise?
We were trying to raise $50K in 50 days.
And how much did you end up raising?
$100K in 50 days.
So this is obviously a very good success story here. That is not most people's story, because as you know statistically, more than half of the crowdfunding projects out there fail. And more than half of the people who apply for a crowdfunding site are rejected. So you have to do a lot of homework before you even approach a crowdfunding platform to make sure your project is ready to go, it has merit, it has something that will appeal to an audience out there, to some network, and that you really need to plan a video. No crowdfunding project is going to succeed without a very strong video. So that network you built, it was probably quite large by the time you completed your project.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have to do another Kickstarter campaign to pay for the release of the film, and I feel, I'm of course very scared because I don't know that we can recreate the excitement that we created the first time, but I'm confident because our network now is so much bigger and we have so much more support. We showed the film to so many more people who are now excited about it as well. So what I was going to say was some advice we got was make sure you have one or two or three big donors lined up. And I was like, I don't really have one or two or three big donors lined up. And that was something that kind of just built. And the other thing I will say is you have to create events around your campaign. Stuff has to happen during your campaign. We got really lucky that press noticed it. We got a lot of press hits during our campaign. That doesn't happen with a lot of projects, but throw a party, have a screening, have a reading of your script, if it's just a script, whatever it is, create events.
Nancy is going to be able to, when she gives her story, she'll be able to really address the press part about how much they have, because her project found its success, would you say, because of the press?
Yeah. We basically were able, our film is about the newspaper industry, so it's a topic that a lot of people are passionate about, and we got contacted by a number of organizations that wanted to do a story on us. So we got donations from that.
So yes, clearly, if you can get the word out to the media, and if there's something interesting, if you find an angle to your project that the media will report it, you will obviously have a much higher likeliness of success because you now have other organizations promoting your campaign. The hardest part of campaigning is getting the word out and building awareness of your project. Does someone have, at this point, a question for Sarah about her project?
Do you think that there's a value in having like some kind of PR team and like putting the budget for them in the crowdfunding budget?
I don't know that they did a press push. They really didn't do a press push. Just there was this young Iranian writer for CNN who wanted to write a story about it and she wrote something about it. It got like buried on CNN's site, and then I guess it got enough hits where CNN's editors decided to put it on the front page of their site. That's just fun. And so if you have money for a publicist, go for it. You also have to take a good look at what the topic is and whether it is topical and whether you're going to get press to rally around it. I think that's just really, or is it like a blogger thing, or is it more like a niche audience? That's something you have to determine. Or find a young person who wants to be a publicist, who wants to dig into this, and then let them on the team.
Question?
It's hard to hear you.
Sorry.
Also, can you tell us, can you tell us the deal? What did the crowdfunders get? What's the percentage of profit? Did they get their original investment back?
No. This is reward-based crowdfunding. This is not equity. So let me just explain the difference in the two so it's understood. This is crowdfunding to the masses, to the crowd, for a project that in return for their contributions, their donations, they will get an assortment of creative and tangible rewards, which Sarah can go over what the kinds of things she gave. This is not ownership in the project or the company. That is equity-based crowdfunding, which is actually not legal right now. And that is why later on we will explain where that stands in time with the SEC.
Okay, so what's the benefit to the investor? That's what I want to know.
So the benefit is, let's say you like the project and you want to help support it. For $5, you get a thank you tweet. For $25, you're basically getting a pre-release DVD. So it's like you would, for $35, you get a t-shirt. For $100, you get like t-shirt, DVD, and an HD. So you get something. It's not just giving money. It somehow is more exciting to people. And at the higher levels, we actually had original artwork from my mom's right there. And my dad were both artists, so I was lucky that they were willing to give us some pieces so that we could put that down. And then for that, for the higher donors, they were like, okay, we're getting a painting from a well-known artist, and it's an investment on both ends. And so I think you have to get people who care about the project. That's the first thing, they care about the project. Otherwise, nobody's just going to get a DVD for the sake of it. They want to support you, and then the perks are really like extra perks. And that's why the whole thing is so brilliant.
Reward-based crowdfunding came out of a grassroots mindset of, I love what this person is trying to do and I want to support it. I was in a meeting with a bunch of accountants, lawyers, and overall wealthy individuals. And one of them turned to me and said, so I don't get this. Why would someone give money to any kind of startup? A film, something artistic? I said, have you ever donated to PBS? Which is probably one of the first incarnations of crowdfunding out there. If you like what you're seeing, send us some money. We'll give you a DVD of what you're seeing. That's crowdfunding. Why do you support it? Because you said, well, I like what they do, and I want to see more of it, and I want the DVD. It's the same concept. I like what this person's trying to do. I want to support it. And sure, when they're done making this film, when they're done recording their album, I'd like a copy of it also. So I kind of also said to them, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it because of the level you're at, because of your ideology and mindset. It's interesting enough that most people who tend to support crowdfunding tend to be middle class or below, and so it's really a grassroots thing where people want to help them fulfill their dream, and then other times it's just like you like what they're creating. Everyone who knows about crowdfunding has heard of the Pebble Watch now, which is one of the most famous crowdfunded projects, where they were a new watch company that syncs to your smartphone. And they were going to invent this, create this, and they were saying that for $100, this watch that we're going to create, it's going to go for like $300 when we sell it, but for a $100 donation, we're going to send you one of those watches when they're done. They were trying to raise $100,000 to produce, how many? 1,000, 500, 1,000 watches. They ended up raising $10.7 million. And they had 6 months now to create 50,000 watches. Right, and they're still working on it because now they went from producing in America, watches, and now they had to go get a Chinese factory. You understand when you have to grow that quickly. So why did people support them? They didn't have a warm, fuzzy feeling. It was a very geek-oriented thing where people said, I want that and I can get it for a third of the price. So that's that's kind of a pre-sales kind of system. When it comes to the creatives, when it comes to artists, it's more, or social causes. I will give you one more example. Someone saw a video on YouTube of this older woman working for a school on a bus, being abused by the kids on the bus. This 65, 70-year-old woman, they're abusing, they're calling her everything in the book. And this person felt so bad, he started a crowdfunding project for her, saying, you know what, this is embarrassing, and I would like to try to raise $5,000 to send this woman on a all-expense paid vacation because it's just horrendous what she goes through. Now, I understand a lot of people go through it, but this person caught his attention. He was a complete stranger, and he decided to throw this campaign for her. By the time it was done, she raised around $675,000 and decided to retire. Now, obviously, social cause, why do people were throwing in just a few dollars, but thousands of people kicked in, and it added up to that much money. So there's different reasons why people contribute, because they want the reward or they just like the cause. Let's continue on with Nancy talking about Fit to Print.
Well, Fit to Print is a documentary about the newspaper industry, and ours was very unique because we'd already done a crowdfunding campaign for our production, and we were going on it for the second time, so we were a little bit apprehensive whether or not, okay, we'll probably get it, but we had to work a lot harder. And we basically reached out to press, and we were successful with it. And we had a small amount of friends and family that gave to us, but it was mostly just, okay, Politico just did a story on us, here's $500 today. Or, Nita Bistro linked to us, or Romesco linked to us, and then the money just kept pouring in, and it was great.
Why don't you describe your rewards that you offer?
Well, we offer poster, DVD, score, a package. We offered higher rewards, but those weren't as popular. Our sweet spot was $50 or $200, and yeah, we got a lot of $200.
That is what statistics have proven, that the sweet spot is $45, $50, and then somewhere up in the $150, $150. So if somebody really, friends, family, really want to support you, they'll throw you higher, and everyone else seems to be down in that $40, $50. You would think, oh, people would just give $1. Most people think if I'm giving already, I'll give something substantial that will make a difference. So you already credited this, obviously, to the press that you got.
Yeah, I mean...
Until the press took over, where were you financially?
I mean, we were, pretty okay with friends and family, but...
How much? You were trying to raise $10,000.
Yeah, we were trying to raise $10,000, and we were around $2,000.
Right.
And then our last day was, $3,000 in one day, and that was just this one blog link.
And what was your final raise?
10,151.
So she just made it, obviously, in the final push. Sarah mentioned something earlier, which is very true. You don't want your project to launch and a day or two go by and there's nothing on it. Another psychology behind any kind of crowdfunding is I want to be part of a winning project. So if your first week goes by and you have $100, $200, it's not boding well for you. You're probably not going to succeed because most of the money, and tell me if I'm wrong, comes in the first week and comes in the last week. So even if you're going for 40, 50 days, the first 7 and the last 7 is where most of the money comes in, especially at the end, where people come to your project and say, oh, they're almost there, let me help out and get them over the top. So, that's important.
I was wondering about that. There's like a belly in your campaign. So it starts out strong, and then you get a belly, and it ends up strong. And so the whole trick, and this is why I was saying you should find events, the whole trick is to get that belly to not be so big, to get spikes in between. And I will say one thing, that the press helped us tremendously. I mean, I think if we go down the list of backers, we have over 800 backers from all over the world, we know maybe 10% of those names. And that happened because that day that CNN put the article on the top of their website, we got 80 backers in one day, and I didn't know any of them.
We have interviewed many crowdfunding project owners, campaign owners, and almost all of them have said to us from their analysis that they did not know either anyone on the list besides the few friends and family, or they did not, or they realized that the people on the donation list were friends of friends of friends, but not people they would call friends. So ultimately, you are getting it from people you know. So let me make that clear. You're not getting it from complete strangers. So very rarely, unless you get the press out, the word out, whatever. So any of my friends, clients who have been successful say, well, I always knew I somehow knew that they were part of my sphere of influence. And these people just barely made it. They got it with the help of their network. If you don't have the network at all, then you have to count on word of mouth or getting the word out through the press. And that's what we bring strangers. You would say that 80% of it sounds like were strangers.
Yeah, 70–80%.
Right, but the first 2,000 was mostly people you knew.
Yeah, mostly. I mean,
somehow. And same thing with you at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Was people you knew until.
Right, and I think what makes it, besides press or coverage, is activating your base. So like, the 100 people who have given $100 because they're friends and family and they just want to support you, you gotta somehow get them to engage with your campaigns.
So what we also want to get out of this is platform is great, but we're trying to make it clear it's not the platform, it's you. If you go to all the platforms, including Crowdzu, you're going to say to yourself, oh, they all seem to look alike. They have a lot of projects on it. There were some differences from platform to platform. It's all your work. It's your networking. It's bringing attention to the project.
Hi, my name is Jace. Our film is called Tiny Dancer. It's a feature film starring Daphne Rubin-Vega and Catherine Crockett, who's a Martha Graham dancer. It's about a famous dancer who has a baby, leaves her company, and then decides that she isn't cut out really to be a mother, so she wants to dance again. So we had tried to make the film for a couple of years in the traditional way that you make an indie feature. We had made another feature called The Cake Eaters. It was like a $2 million budget film. So we just thought, oh, we're going to get this movie made. So we went through different directors, trying to attach different stars, and then finally we had so many friends come over and say, like, I've made 5 movies in the time that you've been trying to make another movie because I crowdfunded. And I was like, what the heck is that? So reluctantly, I wasn't like a big fan of wanting to do this, but we went and we were like, all right, well, the movie's budgeted at $2 million, but maybe we could just make it for $200,000, unlike Sarah, who, they really thought things out. We were like, well, I think we could do this. So our lawyer was like, you really shouldn't take micro investments. Don't do that. So try to get fiscally sponsored. So we went and the nonprofit route, and we got fiscally sponsored by the New York Foundation for the Arts, which is a great program. And then through them, we basically were able to accept tax-deductible donations. So we started that process, and we soon found that that's also extremely difficult to get people to donate money to a feature film, right? So then we were like, as an afterthought, we thought we'll do an Indiegogo campaign. And we chose Indiegogo primarily because we had talked to Slav or Ruben a couple times casually, and we thought, well, everyone goes to Kickstarter, so we'll try Indiegogo, and they're great because if you don't raise all your money, you can still keep some of it. It's just Indiegogo takes a higher percentage of the money. So we picked $10,000 over 60 days. And then we had planned this huge event, like a really fancy dinner, to reaching out to the dance community that Baryshnikov came to and everything, and we raised like $1,300, and we were devastated. And then from the crowdfunding, we raised 20. So, you know, I have to say that it works, but like everyone's been saying, it takes a tremendous amount of effort. Throughout the process, you know, we emailed, you know, literally every single person we know with personal emails, and we found that, you know, ironically that was the most effective. And, you know, we definitely used Twitter and Facebook. You know, the New York Times did a piece on our efforts, and I have to say, I wish I could say that resulted in thousands of dollars. It did not. It was great that they did a piece, but definitely all those things help. We didn't really have like a huge amount of people besides people we know donating to our campaign. I think we like dragged it across the finish line through mostly people we know. I mean, even the little blips of like, you know, Twitter, you know, we had some prominent people tweet about our campaign, and we would get like a rush of dollars here and there. But it never caught fire beyond that. Like I would say like 80% were people that we know. We had like 150 backers, and I knew like most all of them. So right now we did something really different is we raised 20, and then we left our nonprofit status, and then we just raised another 20 through investments. So we've shifted our model. So now we have 40, and we're trying to figure out, can we raise more? Are we going to really make this for 40? So we're really kind of midway in the process, unlike you guys who have finished your film. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, so do you find that out of all of the routes that you've taken, I was really surprised to hear about your event that flopped.
Yeah, it was really sad.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a great party. We had great pictures. The most important thing we did is hire a press photographer for $200. Because we had these pictures. You're like, wow, you guys are a success. So, you know, PR.
Well, at least I guess they did help you at some point.
Yes. Yes.
So, what do you think about use of social media and these campaigns? Because I personally have found, you mentioned that you emailed.
Yeah.
That the response to social media isn't as fantastic as people would assume that it is. Would you elaborate a little bit on that?
I think, yeah, people are inundated with campaigns, and I mean, it's like noise now. You go onto Facebook and there's so much noise. I mean, I think that's why the personal emails really helped us, is that we were trying to make them as personal as possible, send the link, you know, and, you know, be like, oh, hey, how's your kid? What's the kid's name? You know, like scramble just to like, each day we would take a letter. You know, like L took like 5 days. Like, you know, you would do a letter a day. It was hard, man. It was the hardest thing that like we've ever done. But I think in terms of Twitter, like, so, you know, I'm an actor, that's my job. So there's some people I've worked with that like we got to tweet, you know. Like we got Kevin Smith, you know, I emailed him, you know, and he tweeted like, I emailed him, and 2 weeks later, like my wife ran in screaming, going, "Oh my God, oh my God!" So he tweeted it, like our campaign, you know, to like he's got like 2 million followers. So that day we did get a rush of a lot of like smaller investments, but smaller donations. But the I would say, yeah, social media, it's tough. I think if you can harness that in a really focused way, then it can be really beneficial. But if it's kind of scattershot, I think throughout like the whole campaign, everything has to be do or die, you know, or else you're not going to raise your money. You know, but I would say what you were saying, for perks, because we were nonprofit, you got a tax deduction. So we did give people like a photo book from the, you know, stills from the film at like the $200 level, and maybe we gave away 10 or 20 of those, and signed point shoes at a $500 level. But perks, we didn't really deal with that so much because people were getting a tax deduction. And now on the investment side, of course, like, so you were asking, people are getting like an actual investment in the film.
What was your social media? I know that you guys were on social media quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically my Facebook was just every day, every couple hours, you know, people who are friends of mine on Facebook who are here will remember how it was, which was, you know, just, you know, like, thank you for donating. Let me go on your page. Like, it was just, you know, just constant and a lot of work. So it was successful because everyone knew this is what I was doing, but you know, sometimes it's just so much work, and you don't know, you have no way of knowing how, you know, how, if this person that you don't know found you this way or another way, or, you know, if there's some email that someone else forwarded, or like there was one day that Craig of Craigslist tweeted about us, and that was really cool, but you know, I don't know if it was any of his followers or a news article that, you know, that got us that.
Yes.
My question is, like, in this right now in this day and age, how seriously do you make the argument that I've had a successful crowdsourcing campaign, so therefore can you lend me money, or you know, is this a good thing for the grant?
When we were sponsored by NIFA, we applied for like half a dozen grants because we have a feature film, so there's not a tremendous amount of feature film grants as opposed to documentary grants. If you want to talk about that as well, but I find a lot of them want to know that you have like 30% of your money already in place, because they don't want to give you a grant and know that you won't be able to finish your project if your budget is $200,000. So if you say I have zero money, but I want your, you know, $65,000 or $35,000 NISCA grant, you know, they're going to go, what? No, come back to us in 2 years when you have like $85,000. So I think, you know, crowdfunding a portion of it can really make your application look more appealing to grant writers, because you've raised some money. You know, you're showing them that you're passionate, you believe in this project, you have a fan base that does, the project has relevance. You know, I think that can only help. For us, we didn't, I think we're still going to apply for a Jerome Foundation grant. You know, so I think we're obviously going to use that we raised this amount of money, you know, in this way. So yeah, I think it can help.
Curious to help with investors too?
Yeah, I mean, they want to know, you know, it's a different mentality. It's interesting, even when we were about to switch over to investors, I would go to people that I knew were of means and say, guess what, you can finally invest. And they go, I'd really just like to donate to you again. And I was like, oh my God, you know, well, you have one day. So it's like the mentality is totally different. But I think the investor wants to know, you know, it's like the classic capitalist setup, that you're going to deliver a product to the marketplace, it's going to appeal to an audience. Whereas someone that clicks on a Kickstarter campaign, it's almost like the anti of that. It's like, I want to help this guy, man. He's got nothing. Here's $50, you know? So I think it's like it's just a different mentality. But it definitely helped with the investors, because they were like, well, he's raised 20. He needs this amount. You know, like it's more of a numbers thing.
I think that it definitely says that there's an interest in your projects, hence, therefore, there's a possibility of a return on your investment. So I think that's a really good question. That's a good question. Yes.
What's the secret to getting credibility? Is it the platform? Is it the presentation? How do you get, what's the secret to really getting the credibility so people donate?
Well, as I was stating earlier, it's twofold. You know, you heard Sarah constantly saying, because Jace was on Indiegogo, Nancy was on a startup called Passerby. Crowdzu has, you know, a dozen or so projects. Sarah kept saying, well, I did a Kickstarter project, I did a Kickstarter. Now, as I already gave you the statistics of how many people either get rejected or fail, ultimately, since everyone agrees it's coming from your network, and it's 90% your network, unless, actually it's 95% your network unless you click with news. How many click with news? You know, it's on a couple hands of all the projects out there. So since it's up to you and it's your network, the platform just has to be dependable. They don't, you know, that's the whole big secret. Kickstarter is a beautiful job. You know, people forget that Indiegogo came out before Kickstarter. So why do so many more people know about Kickstarter? It's marketing, promotion. But the truth is, Kickstarter is not going to bring anyone extra to your project. They bring people to their site because of news, but they're not going to bring them to your project. Ultimately, you have to do all the work. Hence, why are there hundreds of crowdfunding sites with all of them earning money and making money for the projects? Because successful crowdfunding owners understand it's up to you, and if you bring the people to your project, all you need is a reliable, you know, site that you choose based on all types of criteria.
Hi. Okay, so as we're talking about taxes, obviously if you have successful crowdfunding, the tax collection is always not far behind. So the issues involved here, if you're a not-for-profit, there's no issues. You can give away paraphernalia, you can collect money from people, there's no sales tax, there's no income tax, you're not-for-profit. So we're going to talk about for-profit businesses.
Or individual.
Or individual. Well, even an individual, you're a business. You're a Schedule C, you're a partnership, you're a corporation, and you're looking to do something through crowdfunding. Let me give you, for instances, that'll show you the range on this issue. Michael was talking about that woman who was abused by the children in the bus. She collected $600,000-$700,000. All of those were gifts. People gifted this money to this fund for her. They wrote a check to her. This was all tax-free to her. There were zero taxes involved because everyone is allowed to make a gift to anybody they want. There's no tax to be paid, except possibly from the gift taxes, but that's for another conversation, okay? You have the other example, which is the total other extreme, the Pebble Watch Company, where they basically were pre-selling watches. So people were making their contributions, and they were going to get a watch. Anytime you're dealing with a sale of a tangible piece of property, you have sales tax issues, sales and use tax issues, and you have income tax issues. So in their particular case, and I don't know where they were located, but so every state has different sales and use tax issues. But here in New York, those items that they gave to the contributors would have had a taxable aspect to it. They would have either pay a sales or use tax for the goods that they gave them, and it would have had to recognize some income, taxable income to themselves, because these are deemed sales of tangible property.
If you send somebody a T-shirt, it's a
No. Well, these are the two extremes that you're looking at. Most people fall into the middle somewhere. So if you're doing promotional items, send me $50 and we're going to send you a mug. There are potential issues there of sales and use tax. Promotional items are subject to use tax in New York. Every state has different tax rules, different sales and use tax rules. So I know one place that recommended that you don't give away tangible items if you're doing a crowdfunding. You give away intangible things, a thank you, a mention on a website, a thank you card, whatever, credit in a film, things that are intangible. There is no sales tax on intangibles, so the money you're getting would in essence be tax-free to you because you haven't given anything for it. The money comes to you completely and totally tax-free. It's gifts. People can make gifts to corporations. Corporations can make gifts to corporations. People can make gifts to individuals and partnerships. So if I'm gifting your entity $100 with no strings attached, where you're going to take this money to do your project, there's no tax issues, very much in the same way that this woman got her money. If you decide you're going to give away a pen at $25, a coffee mug at $50, T-shirts, these have value. So New York State would be very interested in knowing how many of these items you're selling, what the retail value of these items are, and it's very likely you can have a sales and or use tax to pay. And then the issue becomes, this money you're getting now, how much of it is taxable to you in terms of taxable income on your return, whatever return due, because of a sale of a tangible asset. So there are implications. My job here is just to tell you going into this that it's not very simple. Believe me, everything dealing with the internet is complicated. Because it's not even a matter of, okay, hey, I sold this item, it was $100. If you're in New York State and you're shipping this item to someone in Iowa, there are no sales tax implications because you're shipping out of state. But then there are nexus issues. So it's a very complicated area. The thing you need to know when you get involved in this is before you go forward with your crowdfunding scheme, speak to your tax advisor and try to understand just exactly what you're getting into and what kind of free items you're going to be giving away, so-called free items you're going to be giving. And you should do that beforehand because where they sold 10 million watches, I'm sure they're not thinking in their mind that we have any kind of tax ramifications there, but there are plenty. So my job is just to say, hey, there are income tax implications possibly. There are more likely sales and use tax implications depending on where you are and how you're going to be doing your travel.
Can a charity set itself up as a vehicle like him to make money by reissuing the grant money for a picture? Can they, like for instance, say charity A decides that there's money to be made in crowdfunding, right? So that you would donate to charity A and then they would
Yeah, charities have a goal. When you become a 501c3, you are telling the government what it is you're in business to do, what your charity's purpose is. Right, you have a mission statement. So you're here to help dogs or people or whatever it might be. So the idea of now going into business and trying to take anyone's money and give them money for whatever they're cockamamie is here, that's contrary to your mission statement. And so, yeah, you have problems with the New York State Attorney General here in New York. Yeah, that's not the idea. It's a not-for-profit. So if you're trying to figure out a way to make a profit, you're in the wrong type of thing.
For the charity to make money for its okay.
You know, those are much more complicated issues. And the reality is, if you're thinking about doing a not-for-profit, you're going to need to get an attorney who will direct you on the things that you're going to need to do.
A couple of questions.
Sure. Quick last little comment about if you're a charity and you want to crowdfund, many charities are doing it. However, whatever you're crowdfunding for should be exactly on par with your mission, because we were told a story how a charity lost their 501c3 status because they kept raising money for something that had nothing to do with the charity, and they started bending backwards to try to connect this unrelated service where they were kind of making money. But they weren't trying to make money to be a for-profit, they were trying to make money so they could fund other things, but it wasn't part of their mission. So you have to then just expand your mission, let the government know, and then you can go off with your schema.
The video is very important. You have to make a personal appeal in your video. And your social network, even though we have people here who successfully crowdfunded and did not do it based on their Facebook, the number of friends they had on Facebook. There's been studies done on Kickstarter campaigns because they're the biggest platform. And you imagine the order of friends, the number of friends you have makes a huge difference to the success of your campaign. And it may not so much be the number of friends, but your personality, the type of person you are, the way you connect with people. It could be an indicator of many other things, but the number of friends make a difference to your campaign. The length of your campaign, actually, the ideal length on a well-known platform is best. Your ideal length is 30 days. And the other thing, campaigns with videos succeed, and like I said, make sure that you are on that video and you talk to your audience. A fantastic campaign that I want to mention, which I have too, is an Indiegogo, was a campaign called Who Gives a Crap, where they tried to raise $50,000 in 50 hours and they succeeded. And if anybody, if anybody wants to go home and take a look at that, it's called Who Gives a Crap? It was toilet paper. And they raised 50,000 and the chief, the main crowdfunder, it was an Australian campaign. He actually sat on a toilet bowl for 50 hours. And he live streamed it. So.
To understand, besides the fact that they had a large network of people they were reaching out to, you just need to watch the video from start to finish, and then by the end of the video say, I understand why this was a successful campaign. The video is your #1 marketing material. Once you create a great video, you're halfway there, the other half, your network. So as far as the platforms, you have to see what maybe the differences are. Some platforms are all or nothing, like Kickstarter. Some will allow you to do a flexible thing. So you don't have to be all or nothing, but they'll take 2 or 3 times as much as Kickstarter if you're not going to raise everything. In the case of Crowdzu, they work in a tipping point system, which is it's the lowest industry cost, and you don't have to raise everything. All you need to do is raise 50%. So the mindset is, if you get half of your money, you're pretty much getting your business, your project, your album, your film, you're getting underway. You're doing already half of it. Maybe you can even reduce your budget a little bit more. You can get most of it done. And guess what? You come back onto crowdfunding and say, hey, look at what I did. Listen to the music or watch some of these clips. Now I just need another $2,000, $3,000 just to finish it up. Much easier process than trying to go all or nothing. So that's what the kind of things you're looking in crowdfunding platforms. What system are you happy with? How much are they taking? Some of these crowdfunding sites take 10, 15%. And also there are other fees. You have to look at transactional fees. Some of these sites will take 4, 5% money coming in, and they'll take 2, 3% for money going out. So all of a sudden, it's not 5 or 10%, ends up being 15 to 20% that you're losing. These are the differentiators of the crowdfunding sites. That's what you need to investigate as far as a platform. As far as the question earlier, no, the platform guarantees you nothing. You have to just decide, what can you live with? What are you looking for in a platform? And then the work is on you. Network, video, good idea. Can never exchange anything for a good idea.
And also, if you campaign, if you're on an all or nothing platform, if you cross the magic number 68%, if you raise 68% of your goal, you are almost guaranteed that people will throw in the rest of the money. You just have to reach out to them. You're more than likely to get 100%. So there are a lot of stats, on crowdfunding.
Yeah, early, that's a good point. Like midweek, early in the morning is a good time for emails and any of that kind of stuff. Not Friday at 4 p.m., obviously. Things like that are really important. Like you were saying, also whatever platform you choose, you can email them and they'll have a phone conference with you, a lot of them, to give you advice. Like we talked to Indiegogo about our pitch video, and they talked with us for a half hour about just what you said, like be in it, passionately convey the issue, tug at people's heartstrings. They referenced a video about a girl, and I don't mean to make light of this, that was like dying and wanted to see every city, like wanted to go to Paris or something. And the video was really simple. It was just like all these photos of her, and it was like, you were like crying, the point was like form as much of an emotional connection,
yes.
Yeah, as you can.
That was something that I refused to do, even though Stella, she implored that I do that, and she explained how important it was, but I was like, oh no, the kids, and really it did not matter at all.
Those kids.
The children did not make a difference. No one came.
Because they're giving you the money, so they have to connect with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So ultimately, it doesn't matter what it's going for.
Exactly.
You're the one asking for it. They have to connect with you. You have to sell it. No one else can. We have a campaign that's on there where we have been battling with the campaign owner saying, this is a generic video. You are not in the video at all. It's a beautiful video, but you're not in it. Who is there to connect with? And that is why right now he's struggling with the campaign. And we keep emailing going, we keep telling you, you're not connecting with anyone. You're not in the video. Yes, he went out and shot this video, incredibly big budget video for the campaign. And we keep saying, great, you spent all that money. You're not in the video anywhere. They don't know who they're going to be giving this money to and why. You know, it almost feels like you're asking, a faceless company is asking for the money. So, connect.
I was going to ask a very different question. What about people that really think they're investing in that they're going to be on the inside track with this company if it grows, if it really takes off, and they're going to get other information and become an investor?
There is
that a very different...
Well, it's perfect timing because we're going to segue into equity-based, but it's project-based. It's not business-based crowdfunding, reward-based crowdfunding. Usually, film, album, something creative, entrepreneurial, if it's entrepreneurial, they could be starting a business. And where you're going to grow with it is you're going to get your reward, you're going to help it grow, help it launch, and you can be a supporter or follower, but you're done as far as that. They may keep coming back to the campaign site and keep updating you as respect for the people who helped them launch, and so you will have inside info. Inside, if you're on their email list, you'll get inside offers, but it's no investment, so at a certain point, it's over with. Project-based, which is what 80% of crowdfunding projects are, hence why they're called campaigns or projects, is they're short-lived. So you're helping them launch, you're gonna exist with them through the making of it, till it ends, and then one of your rewards will be the finished project, and guess what? It's over with. Until you see those people come on again a year later and say, hey everybody, here's my next. So you're just basically helping an artist grow. That's in the creative side. Socially conscious, it's not something usually long-term. I want to help this cause, I want to help this person. Once that person receives the help they need, it comes to an end. They're usually project-based. But I think we should move on to equity.
Also, don't be a faceless campaigner, not just about being in the video, but also if you start a campaign, make sure that your face, your profile is up there, and if there's a way to kind of put Facebook there so that they can see how many friends you have. Use those tools. And
do updates. Do updates. People want to hear from you.
Yes, people want to hear from you. Respond if anybody writes to you, all that kind of usual stuff. And also, one of the advantages of crowdfunding is that you're also building a fan base. So when your film comes out or your album comes out, you have people who already know about it. First of all, you're pretty sold to them most likely, but they talk about it. Other people are going to hear about it. It builds up a fan base. That's it.
Okay, I just want to say one thing, which is that we just did our trailer. We launched a new trailer for the campaign, and we had different events, which was what Sarah was talking about, which is really helpful. You just, post an update, and then you get more people, more traffic, and that can garner a lot of attention.
Okay, so we're going to give a little overview now of the equity side of crowdfunding. This is a very different beast. We will just going to briefly go over it, and then we're going to open up to any kind of questions discussing anything, and that's how we'll finish up the panel. Equity-based crowdfunding. It was proposed by, I believe, Patrick McHenry. Yes, and so it got included into the Jobs Act bill, which then got signed into law. But, you think, okay, it's a law now, we could go do it. No. But then the next step was it's going to be handed down to the SEC for them to hand down their rules on how we go ahead to do it. Joe, you want to talk about where it stands, right?
Well, I don't want to, but well, yeah. So the law was passed. FINRA and the SEC have to promulgate rules right now to do the kind of funding that the law states. They have to actually change some part of this, paragraph B in the law. They have to agree on how many investors can be in the deal. Normally, is a limit, and the limit in the new law is much higher. So they can't just do it. They have to really decide how we're going to do it, what kind of reporting requirements are there. There's talk about having audits and reviews of these companies based on how much they're going to fund. So we're a long way off from actually having equity crowdfunding. The deadline, I think, is December 31st right now. They missed their first deadline. From everything I read, they're going to miss their second deadline. At best, maybe next summer. More likely, it will fall into 2014. It really depends. There are some people backing it, some people don't want to. We have a presidential election. You understand nothing really kind of happens. FINRA is an independent, it's an SRO, it's independent, it's not like the SEC. You can't force them to do things necessarily. You can put pressure on them, but you can't force them. So if you're here thinking you're going to be able to do this and get money and bring your company public, you will one day, just not now. The only way to do it now would be to get accredited investors, which can be done now. You can find people who fit the bill, have enough income or asset base that they can make investments and private placements, but that's not really the crux of doing equity-based crowdfunding. It's getting non-accredited investors in, people who can put in 1,000, 100, things of that nature, getting the average person in, and so we're just not there yet.
The basics of what equity-based crowdfunding will be is there's going to be kind of 3 levels: 100,000 less, up to 500,000, and then up to $1 million. And you can have up to 2,000 investors. So you could have 2,000 backers putting in any amount up to $1 million. However,
it's income-based though.
it's income-based. You know, it's income-based. You can invest up to a certain percentage of your annual income. So you can't just throw money at something. All this is put into place in order to protect against fraud and also to protect you from making silly mistakes. Of course, the silly part is how many people, especially back in the 90s, threw tons of money into the stock market and nobody stopped you, and you lose your shirt in the stock market. So they're playing around with this a little bit because the stock market has been doing this forever. They're just afraid of extra scams and frauds, which have never really happened with reward-based, but they fear, the SEC is afraid it's going to become like a Wild West, all-out zoo when this happens. There's platforms have to be, licensed, there has to be a relationship with a broker. The SEC is going to make this so complex that it will also, whenever they even allow it, it will take longer than that for it to then even loosen up, because people will complain because it's just not really happening. Now, we've been told in the next month or so, you will be able to seek accredited investors on your own website. Not a crowdfunding platform, but on your own website. You could say, hey, if you're an accredited investor and you're interested in what you see here, contact us, and you could actually seek funding that way through private placement. That is going to probably be passed in the next month or two. But that is not crowdfunding, where you go to one of these same sites and you now put your project up there, doing it the same way as rewards-based, but simply everybody knows now when I invest, I own X amount of the company. One of the stopgaps, one of the things that will make it hard is, I mentioned 100, 500, and $1 million. If you are trying to raise under 100,000, which is everyone is saying is the sweet spot, because that's going to be where films are going to fall and music projects and most projects, all you have to do is kind of have, just your tax statement or financial statement, which is simple, cheap, and most people can.
I don't know if any of your accountants out here, but there's a difference between the types of financial statements you need. So some of the things will require a tax return, which everyone will prepare. Some will require a compilation, which is basically
you go on QuickBooks to 500.
You go on, no, that's the 100, 500 review.
Oh, that's right.
You go and get a compilation, you go to QuickBooks, and you enter all your information, and then you go print the balance sheet and the P&L, and that's a compilation. But once you get to the higher amounts, they ask for a review. A review is much more expensive. to do because there's more work done and it's done by an accountant. You can't do a review yourself. It has to be done by a CPA firm. And from $500,000 to $1 million, right now they're requiring an audit. An audit is very expensive. So if you're going to get $500,000 and you have to spend $50,000 or $100,000 to get an audit, it becomes somewhat prohibitive. So $500,000 will probably not be something people will be looking for. Maybe $490,000 or maybe $1 million, but not $500,000 because it's just going to be too expensive for all of the other. And there's going to be legal fees and a lot of other things involved. So.
Right, and we have spoken to actually quite a few accounting firms about this, and they all assure us that they probably will not do, and I'm being facetious, none of them will do these audits on account waiting for you to raise your $500,000, $1 million. So if you want to raise $700,000, then you have to be prepared to have $50,000 to $100,000 up front.
I will not either.
Right, there you go. So, so all size firms, we even spoke to some of the largest, top 4 firms, 5 firms. What's the top 4, top 5? The big top 4. And they said, no way. Even to help out, and they do a lot of things to help out startups, but they won't do it because it's just too much work. So you have to say, okay, I want to go on a crowdfunding site, an equity-based crowdfunding site. I want to raise $800,000. Might as well try to raise $1 million. But I have to now spend $75,000, $100,000 ahead of time to get my my audit. So once again, the sweet spot, which allows you to get into this at a very, very low cost, is $100,000 or less, where you can basically supply most of the information yourself, and you can now raise money and sell. So I would say we should just open up for final questions now on anything crowdfunding related. In the future, we will also hold dedicated panels on crowdsourcing. I understand some people seem to use crowdsourcing, to transpose with crowdfunding, but they're very different. Crowdsourcing is for services. If you're looking for a logo design and you're saying, okay, I only have $200 and I need a logo. Yes, you could go onto a Craigslist or something a little, more, something nefarious like that where you don't know what you're going to get. Or you could come to a crowdsourcing site that has a whole stock of creatives already part of it. And what you do is you say, hey, here's my $200. It's like put in escrow. And I'm looking for a logo for a company. Here's the description of the company. And what happens is you get back a whole bunch of spec logos. And you say, here's what I'm looking for. I love it. You choose it. You own the full copyright to it. You pay your $200. You get your logo. Everyone's happy. Crowdzu is going to be launching over the next few months. Logo, graphic design, websites, project management, music licensing, photo licensing, fashion, animation, video. So anything that a startup needs, they can come there and say, here's how much I have, and they can find what they need. That's what crowdsourcing is. It goes hand in hand with crowdfunding, only in that in every case you're appealing to the crowd for something, either it be services or funding. Questions in general on crowdfunding? Anything else that was not answered?
You said there's hundreds of these platforms. Why are there so many? Are they all succeeding?
Well, no, obviously not. There's, maybe 2-3 dozen that are succeeding. Hundreds of them have opened all in just the last month or two. Crowdzu only launched on July 10th, but Crowdzu, as I explained, has many verticals. All these sites that we're talking about are just rewards-based or just equity-based crowdfunding. Why they're doing it? Because there's a lot of programmers out there. And they sit there and they say, this is the hot new thing.
It is a hot space.
It's a hot space. And actually, not that I'm looking, for more people to get into it, but it's one of those spaces that you could actually raise some money from investors. So for Crowdzu, no, we didn't go onto a crowdfunding platform and, and crowdfund the thing. It was through placement and investment. But the point is there's some money for some of these hot spaces. data, cloud computing. There's certain hot spaces out there that there's investment. That's why people are jumping in. And there's a lot of programs out there. A lot of kids coming out of college and they go, oh, this is cool, Indiegogo is cool, Kickstarter is cool. And then boom, they just say, let me in my free time. It takes a while. To write a really good platform takes a longer while. And they say, let me put it out there. But it's the biggest mistake. Putting out a website and like the build it and they will come mentality does not work as much as creating your crowdfunding project and putting it up there and saying, I put it up there now, it looks good, and now I'm going to wait for them to come. Won't happen. Takes a lot of work, hence why there's also a panel tonight. Yes?
Is there an amount that is most likely to be funded, like say 5,000 or 10,000? Is there kind of number that's very popular?
Even though, the campaigns that you hear about on Kickstarter, for instance, or the ones that really go up and raise millions, that's a very, very small percentage. The average campaign on Kickstarter raises under 5,000. 5,000 is the goal, yes, and that is the goal. And on average, a campaign's average contribution received by a campaign is $70. Even though most people may give you $50, but other people give you $1, a lot of people give you $1. So the average works out about $70.
And as Joel mentioned, you want your lower levels to $1, $5, to possibly be interesting, creative. We always use the term inspired, rewards that maybe are intangible. Hence, you don't have to worry about, actually doing fulfillment. I know that wasn't mentioned, but that's very important too. The Pebble Watch was kind of a classic example of fulfillment nightmare, but you're a filmmaker, and all you're focused on is, I need this money so I can start casting and start going into production on my project. So I now just wanted to raise $10,000. Guess what? I know a lot of people, the word spread, it got out to the press because I'm maybe doing something about media, and the media picked it up and loved it. And now instead of that $10,000, I just raised $200,000. Great, but now your fulfillment is going to be very time consuming. Some people even go out and hire a fulfillment company because you have to now crank out tons more t-shirts. So where you thought it was a cute idea to say, I'm going to make you a custom t-shirt for your $10, now go do 1,000 of those custom t-shirts, that film is not going to be starting to 2 quarters later. So be smart about it, and yes, you got to think, well, what if I am successful? Can I really quickly fulfill these and then move on to what was the whole point of this? My project, whatever that may be. So you may want a fulfillment. I know what we do is we work with 1 or 2 fulfillment companies. So if you come to us and say, holy crap, I was successful, what do I do? Say, here, we have nothing to do with these outside companies, but here's some fulfillment companies that can take care of your needs, because you don't want to be thinking about that. You got the money's coming to you a week later, 2 weeks later, just take care of it and move on to what's more important.
We spoke with a filmmaker who raised money on Indiegogo, and she used what's known as flexible funding, which is what Jay said he went with Indiegogo, because you get to keep the money raised. But she raised, I don't know, $1,200, I think, on a $20,000 or $10,000 campaign. But the reward she offered was so expensive to produce and required special packaging. Plus, Indiegogo takes a larger commission if you don't meet your funding goal. She actually ended up pretty much spending money out of her pocket because she had to fulfill the rewards. So that's,
yes. So think this all out before, just because a site, our site, the way most sites work is you have to create your whole campaign, your video, everything, which is like 3 weeks of work, a month of work it could be. And then you present it to them, and then you could be rejected, and you just did all that work. We came up with a simple system of, in a couple 100 words or less, pitch us your idea, and we'll base it on that. Understanding, we're going to look at your site before you launch it. Just because it's easy, because we have had many projects already that unfortunately we've had to either reject because we knew from talking to the people that they really weren't ready for this. It's very easy when you just pitch a project, but you're not really thinking about the work that's going to go into it. So that's another thing about platforms. They're trying to protect you as well as themselves, that you don't waste all this time.
Actually, I'd like to ask Jace and Nancy how much time they spend preparing their campaign, even before going online and live with their campaign.
We had, I guess, a month. We were working on our trailer because we wanted to launch the new trailer and have that drive the traffic to our passerby page.
So about a month.
Yeah, about a month.
Yeah, probably about the same. We had a trailer for our film that was really beautiful, but like I said, we really wanted to make a personal pitch video. So yeah, I guess getting Facebook, getting all the everything, so we had a good understanding of our fans and getting as many likes as possible, preparing for the campaign. Yeah, I would say a couple weeks, yeah.
And Nancy went after print media, but Jace, you went after the dance community and decided to event that you threw.
Yes. Yes, definitely went after the dance community. We did, you really should have, like people have been saying, events. Like we did a tie-in with Dance Magazine. Any idea that you might have is not really that crazy. Like we got my publisher that makes books. They gave us 500 photo books made up of stills from our test shoot that we did. We had beautiful pictures, so we were able to give those 500 books out as perks at the $200 level. And we got Sancha, who makes dancewear. They're a dancewear company. They gave us a couple hundred pairs of pointe shoes that we got our 2 lead actors to sign, so we gave those out at the $500 level. So you'd be surprised when you really call up companies, especially smaller companies, and say, listen, I'm making a documentary about pig farming, and you make beef jerky. Can we figure out how to make this work? People really want to get involved, especially if you can get people on the phone and really plead your case. Canvas people, they make canvases. They'll make a canvas out of anything. We got them to donate 100 canvases of prints from the film that our actors signed. So it's really about thinking outside of the box in terms of those kind of ideas for the campaign.
Yes.
Are there level of information that you require the founder to disclose in terms of, my concern is very confidential. You have a great project, and how much information do I have to disclose to you versus able to disclose my friend?
We're talking reward-based crowdfunding, right? When you pitch your idea, you're just simply saying what the idea is, which is all being strictly confident among the platform. Once you create your campaign page, you create the page, so you disclose as much or as little as you want. Understand, the less you disclose, the less successful you'll be, because people have to understand what you're trying to do. I know what you're saying because there's all these inventions, and you would think these people would be nervous coming forward and saying, here's this great thing we want to invent. We need the money, and we're close, and we want to invent this great scooter that goes underwater and can take photos, and this is an actual real project, and we'll give you at this level one of the kits when we're done. And this is how it works. And they went on to explain ad nauseum, in real geek detail, how this works with what is the exact equipment they're using, the hardware, how they attach it, and they were very successful because geeks all wanted one of these. And so, how do I put it nicely? There's always someone out there in the universe, just like films get emulated, there's always someone out there who may emulate or run with your idea. How many American products are copied by other countries, or Americans steal Japanese films or German films, it goes on all the time. The chance that you're going to put something up there when it's already developed out and you're already raising the money, and someone's going to see it and say, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to go create that quickly and find the money. Is it possible? Sure. But a lesson I learned a long time ago writing screenplays. And I remember wrote one, and the studio was interested, and I was scared to send it to them. And a writing friend who was very successful said, You're never going to sell it if it stays in your desk drawer. You have to take a chance, because you can imagine screenplays, ideas for TV shows. Those things get stolen all the time. But you still have to put it out there if you want to fund it or get it made. So yes, it's a dilemma. So the platform will guarantee you that any conversation between you and them is in confidence. We're not interested, and the platforms aren't interested in pursuing your idea. They're already pursuing their idea. Once you put it out on the platform, yeah, so that's what you're hoping. The whole world sees it, and you get your funding so you could rush to market. You know, what about Shark Tank? Anybody watch Shark Tank? Okay, Shark Tank. These people come on there, and I'm always surprised how much detail they give about the product. Well, the sharks will even ask them. They'll say, well, what does it cost you? And I'm thinking, I don't want the public to know this thing that we're going to sell them for $20 cost me $1.20. You know, I never understood that. Isn't that? But that's the point. When the level that these people are at, where they've already developed it, people aren't going to come in and steal it so quick.
I have to, you can't emphasize enough, and I think you guys know what I'm referring to. It's very important that you research your idea as well before you invest a lot of time and energy in branding something that already exists at some level. I mean, it's just, I can't emphasize that enough.
Yes, and you want to go through, get the domain for it before you go public. You know, if you have a few dollars, do the trademark. You know, if you can't afford international trademark, you can do a state trademark. Do a few things too. If it's a script or a film, just take that thing and mail it to yourself or register it. Same thing with music. There's plenty of things you can do just to protect yourself. Last question, and then we're going to conclude.
When you are crowdfunding, is it a good idea to list your budget on the webpage that is going, so that whoever is backing up has an idea?
Did you do that?
Well, I think it's important to put what the money is going to, so
Right.
people know what
That's different, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want. You want to show that. You want to show
Because
exactly the breakdown.
showing your budget may also reveal it's unrealistic and you may lose people's interest. Just tell them what you need the money for.
But sometimes people do say, you know, I'm raising 50,000 now, but that's for pre-production, and I go ahead and my total budget is $1 million. People do that on the.
And if they like the project and what they see it as, is we're helping you to get it started.
But you were saying it, like sometimes it's very tangible. If you're like, I'm trying to raise 20,000, but for 5 I can pay my actors, so people are like, oh well, I can give him $500 toward that 5,000 pay. Like it quantifies it, right?
Yeah.
And on that note, we thank you very much for coming out tonight.